I am pleased to be able to welcome Bethany to be with us this morning to lead worship and to share God's Word with us. Most of you know Bethany. She served here for 4 years as our youth director, during which time she became a member of this church, and she has recently completed her Master of Divinity at Detroit Ecumenical Theological Seminary, which you also already know, because even though you're not with us, we celebrate these milestones through your process. Bethany is in the process of ordination in the Presbyterian Church, which is sometimes arduous and it's always slow. But she has navigated it with grace and with graciousness, and I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So we are just so thrilled that she's come to share her considerable gifts with us this morning, as the gifts that we came to appreciate so much during her time here. So please welcome Bethany.
Join me in a prayer for illumination, praying that God will open our hearts and let His words be into our hearts and into our minds today. Prepare our hearts, O God, to accept your word. By your Holy Spirit, open our minds, that as the Scriptures are read and your word is proclaimed, we may be led into your truth and taught your will, for the sake of Jesus Christ our Lord. The second reading today comes from Matthew chapter 26. It says, "Now while Jesus was at Bethany, in the house of Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very costly perfume. And she poured it on Jesus' head as he reclined at the table. And when the disciples saw it, they were angry and said, 'Why this waste? For this ointment could have been sold for a large sum, and the money given to the poor.' But Jesus, aware of this, said to them, 'Why do you trouble the woman? She has performed a good service for me. For you will always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me. By pouring out this ointment on my body, she has prepared me for burial. Truly, I tell you, wherever this good news is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be told in remembrance of her.'" When Bryant told me that the summer series was going to be about biblical women, I was excited. I wanted to find a woman whose story was not told often enough, but whose example could really set the stage for something for us even today. When I read Matthew 26, I knew I had found her. Her story is so overshadowed, we don't even get to know her name. What we know about her is something that she held and brought with her, her alabaster jar. The oil in this jar is probably what makes it most significant and why it is most remembered. In this jar was perfumed oil worth an entire year's salary. So it's safe to say that this is something she saved up to buy. Something that she certainly didn't think she was going to dump onto someone's head in one sitting. I can hear my dad saying, "Don't spend it all in one place." She probably intended to use it in little bits, over time, for special occasions. But when she hears that Jesus is in town, she gets excited. The word spreads quickly wherever Jesus goes. We see the kind of crowds that he's able to attract. But this time she hears he won't be among a crowd. This time he'll be in a small house, visiting a few close friends. I can feel her heart leap as she realizes this is her chance. Her chance to show Jesus just how much she loves him. She can use the jar to show her love in a very extravagant way. It might have been a rash decision. She might have weighed her options and still decided this was the best course of action. Because her decision was to show her love. Now, this day, in this moment, she wouldn't waste the opportunity to show Jesus how much he meant to her. to show her love. Her love and this act of joy is met with, "Why this waste? She must have been crushed." And maybe this is why no one remembers her name. In the moment, the disciples completely look past the woman and instead choose to focus on her actions, pouring out a jar of expensive perfume from an alabaster jar. When they see this, of course, the disciples immediately think of all the people that could have been fed with the money that jar could have been sold for, the houses that could have been built for the homeless, the additional disciples that could have funded to send out and tell the world the good news. They are distraught at this wasted opportunity, and they let her know how they feel. And I don't really blame them. They are disciples after all, and their task is to learn their rabbi's program. Every rabbi had a program that the disciples were meant to learn and live out. This program included talking like the rabbi, making decisions like the rabbi, choosing and living their life in every way like their rabbi would. The disciples knew it well. They had spent a few years learning this program. They saw Jesus teach parables about helping those in need. They saw Jesus feed thousands of people. Jesus lived out this program. They've also seen Jesus reprimand wasteful spending in the past. So they're sure that that's what he's about to do now. It's part of the program. If she is so devoted to Jesus, she should not be so wasteful. She should have followed the program. She should have sold the jar for the highest price and given that money to help people who are less fortunate. Instead, she pours it out wastefully over Jesus. That isn't the program. So knowing the program well and expecting Jesus to be on their side, the disciples cry out and yell at her. What we have here is a clash between insiders and newcomers. The disciples are insiders. They know the program. They're living to keep it moving. The woman is an outsider, new to the program, but eager to belong. We have all been a part of this clash. Someone new joins the church, and they hear about a bake sale. They know exactly what they can do. Their mother has a prize-winning chocolate cake. They go home, meticulously follow the recipe, spread each piece of chocolate on the top perfectly. When they present it at the bake sale, murmuring begins about, well, no one's really going to spend that much money. Usually we bake smaller things that don't cost as much. That cake's probably going to sit there. And their excitement is dashed. Or maybe there's a new elder on session who has actually read through Robert's rules and starts calling for a question. And everyone gets worried that maybe the newcomer knows the program better than they do. This clash does not only happen at church. In our workplaces, new hires come in and try to impress the boss by pitching ideas at a mile a minute, and we feel insignificant. Or in our friend group, someone brings someone new who interrupts our stories and wants to relate, "Oh, I know what that feels like. I've been there before. I know exactly how that goes." And by not being able to express ourselves, we feel annoyed and judge quickly if we'll invite that person back. In their excitement of wanting to belong, outsiders can do some annoying and odd things. But belonging is so important. We carefully watch our children as they make friends, being sure that they're not running with the wrong crowd. Because we know that the group that we belong to will shape who we become. Those will be the ideals and the traditions that we uphold. And so we demand the same standard from every newcomer that comes into our group. We test them, we give them questions, we wonder what they're going to do with our program. And every newcomer has the choice to either follow the program or get out. Only newcomers with fortitude will try the tests again or pass with flying colors. Some will see the tests as rejection and will turn away from the group. And others will simply leave and find another group, which is fine. But as a church, as disciples of Jesus trying to live out that program, what does it say about this clash? Jesus' reaction is the example we should strive for. If we are disciples trying to enact that program, we need to pay attention to Jesus in this story. Jesus welcomes this woman. He recognizes her actions in the way she intended them, not by the program, but by the love that she wanted to show. Jesus honors her for what she's done, and he says, "Why are you bothering her? Can't you see that she just wants to belong here? Sure, she didn't follow the program like you expected, but look at what she did do. She gave all of her love. She showed it in the best way she knew how. And love is never a waste." There is an amazing commercial from Thailand that I watch every time someone posts it. It really can lift someone up out of a bad day. It shows what these random acts of love can really do in the world. The commercial follows a man through his daily routines. He gets up in the morning and walks to work, walks underneath a building with a broken gutter, and gets soaking wet. Instead of being angry, he moves a nearby pot underneath to catch the water on the sidewalk. At the next intersection, he meets a vendor who can't get her food cart up onto the sidewalk. So he helps her, and she moves along. At lunch, there's a dog begging for food. And after he's done with his lunch, he gives what he has left to the dog. The person selling the food shakes his head at him, knowing that he's just encouraging the dog to keep begging. And on his way home from work, after a long day, he meets a mother and her child begging with a sign that says, "For education." He gives what he has left in his wallet and goes home, also to looks shaking their heads, wondering why he would encourage their begging. And so his days continue in the same way over and over, passing the broken gutter, helping the vendor with her cart, who sometimes yells at him for being late, so she's not very grateful for the help. Sometimes at lunch he buys a whole extra meal for the dog. And at the end of the day, he gives whatever he has left in his wallet to the mother and her child, sometimes a fairly substantial amount of money. And so his days cycle through, and the voiceover says, what is the point for all of this? As he goes past the pot, the vendor, the dog, the mother, the voiceover says, what does he gain from all of this? He won't get rich. He won't be famous. He won't even get acknowledgement for his actions. This is the same sentiment of the disciples. One of them cries out, "We could have sold this and given the money to the poor." They want to be rich. Another yells, "Why this waste?" They want acknowledgement for the good deeds that are being done. And they're right. What is the point? Why all of the waste? In the final scene of the commercial, we see the man walk past the pot again, this time with a flowering bush, nourished by the water that the broken gutter dripped onto it. Why the waste? When the man goes to help the grumpy vendor, he follows her this time and sees her giving free food to a family up the road. Why the waste? This time after lunch, the dog follows him home, fully committed to him as a lifelong companion. Why the waste? And the mother is found begging alone, because the money that he's given has funded her daughter's education, and she's in school. Why the waste? Random acts of love, or as they're more popularly known today, random acts of kindness. We hear in the news people paying for other people's meals, people leaving money at vending machines. They've become a bit trendy. If we knew the name of the woman with the alabaster jar, We might call these acts after her today. We might say they're acts of Deborah, acts of Maya, or acts of Zoe. But we don't get to know her name. We do, though, get to hear what Jesus calls them. Acts of the gospel. And we're called to spread that gospel throughout every corner of the earth. Evangelism. A word that has worried us and plagued Christians forever. We don't want to be off-putting. We don't want to change how the gospel is said. We don't know if we can do it quite right. So sometimes it doesn't get done. But Jesus says that this is what the gospel is all about. These acts of the gospel that this woman has demonstrated is what we need to do in the world. So maybe it's okay that we don't know her name because her actions speak louder than her name would ever ring. She doesn't let anything get in the way of showing her love. No excuse. It's too expensive. I don't have the time. I don't really know them well enough. Will they even take it the right way? No excuse stands in her way. She will show her love now, in this moment, while she has the chance. She will not let that slip by. God has lavishly poured out the costly gift of grace. And so may we also find the opportunities to pour out that love, to not let our excuses build walls between us and hold back that love that we're meant to give. May we feel excitement to be disciples of Jesus and to follow and continue to give the program that Jesus gave us. Amen.